more, but maybe for those who don't, you're a local kid.
Yes, actually, Christina's originally a native.
A native.
Of Arizona.
A native.
Yeah.
And I'm,
Yeah. How many natives out there? All right. Wow. What do we expect?
I'm originally from California, and then ended up here around the time I was 14 years old. And,
Nearly native.
Yes.
Nearly native.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Well, Scott, you obviously are familiar with a lot of us from American Idol, and was it season 8?
It was season 8 in 2009.
Wow.
2009.
It's been that long.
It has been 10 years this year.
10 years.
Can you believe it?
So
Yeah.
what were some of the highlights or some of the biggest things you can remember or take away from that time?
My favorite moment of American Idol was something I talk about a lot. And if any of you watched back then, Ryan Seacrest is the host of American Idol. He still is. But I just made it to Hollywood Week. Hollywood Week is like the regionals of American Idol. So they gave me my golden ticket, and I rushed out the door, and I was so excited. And then Ryan Seacrest says, "Well, congratulations, Scott. We will see you in Hollywood." And then his hand very quickly, dove down, and he realized I didn't see him. And so he said, "I'm giving you a high five." And we did the high five, and it was all okay. But it was funny because it was the media made such a big deal about it. It was in every magazine, and every talk show was talking about just this picture of Ryan with his hand up in the air, and me standing there unaware.
Denied. High five, denied.
Yeah.
So obviously that's been 10 years ago. What have you guys been doing since American Idol? What happened after that?
Well, that was in 2009. Then we got engaged in 2010 and married in 2011.
Have you known him before that time?
Yes, so we kind of grew up together here in the Valley, and we actually met at church. Some of you might know Scott's Bible Church. So we were in a musical back in 2003, and it was The Music Man.
Love that.
He was Mayor Shin, and I was a pickle little lady. So we were friends for many years, and I actually got to go watch him one of the nights of Idol because I was at school in California. So we were just friends for all these years, and then after Idol was done, I think I said, "Well, maybe you have something going for you, so we can go out now."
You had to prove to her that you're a worthy spouse to have.
Yeah. So since then, it's been so much fun just to be able to do life together and to work together too and minister together, and we've covered a lot of ground together,
Yes.
which has been amazing.
Now, obviously, you're blind, or are you completely blind?
So it's kind of like I'm pretty close to completely blind. So with blindness, there's a whole spectrum of vision. People who are legally blind can sometimes still drive a car. And so I'm kind of at the bottom of that spectrum. I have about 2 degrees of tunnel vision in the center of my field. So it's kind of like the size of a mouse cursor on a computer screen, if you can imagine that, or like looking through a little straw. And it doesn't look blurry to me or black around that. It's just like if you were to put your hand behind your head, you don't have vision back there. It's beyond the field of your vision. That's what my whole field is like, except for that little pinhole in the center.
So besides that, but you also have had some other health complications.
Yeah,
So
so blindness was one thing, but there were challenges I dealt with later on in life. And I became a Christian when I was about 5 years old after a vacation Bible school. And I think the story was similar for Christina.
Yep, 5 years old,
Actually.
VBS, different state though.
Both VBS though. And so I had grown up knowing that and seeing actually in my life that God was doing things through my disability, that he was touching other people, and but it was never truly a challenge for me beyond things I had. I got really good at overcoming and being creative, finding workarounds for obstacles in my life. But I was never angry at God about my blindness, And I've given so many speeches over the years about achieving dreams and achieving goals, and because that's what I was doing. But at 19 years old, I was graduating from ASU. I graduated a little bit early. It's just part of the story. And that day, I walked out into the parking lot and got a phone call that changed my life. I found out my kidneys were failing.
Oh no.
And I remember that was a moment for a little bit there where I did ask those questions. Why, God, isn't the blindness enough? Why the kidney failure too? And then he walked me through some amazing things with that.
So how did obviously that was only the first part of the kidney story.
Yeah. So I got pretty sick that first time around. I ended up on dialysis and couldn't make music, and even in my own home. And then the wife of my former piano teacher from ASU decided she was going to donate her kidney to me.
Wow.
And she saved my life. And so it was led, and Christina was around as a friend at that time, but we would go through a lot more together later. But I just remember making music on American Idol after that. It was less than a year later that I auditioned for the show. And I was just so thankful to be on any stage, let alone the American Idol stage, and just to go from not being able to make music to making music on that huge platform was such a blessing. And we got married after that. But transplanted kidneys actually don't last forever, just like our bodies don't last forever. Right. So this time married, we ventured into this time of uncertainty again to wait to see what God would do.
But that wasn't the end of the kidneys. You had another complication after that.
Yeah, I was put back on the waiting list for a second kidney transplant. And
were you wondering why now, God, or what was your?
I think we were more prepared this second time. I mean, we actually found out just a few weeks before our wedding that he would need a second transplant. Previously, we had thought it might last 20, 25 years, but this was, no, probably before you even have a family, you're going to need another transplant. So we kind of lived with that tension of, well, this is something in the future. We don't know when it's going to be. We don't know how it's going to go down. But I think that, we really tried to keep a positive perspective. And especially once he went back on the waiting list, I think God he gave us a special gift of just being able to really enjoy the moments within that hard time before we could look back with hindsight.
Right.
So he really gave us the 20/20 vision in the midst of the trial. And that year was a really special year for us, and I think it just gave us a lot of joy to be able to share how our hope in Christ gave us peace even before we knew the outcome.
Right. So it was a whole year when you find out the second time to the time?
Yeah, it was similar.
4 years, wasn't it?
Oh, from when we found out?
Yeah, when we found out to when he got the transplant was about 4 years.
Yeah, but I think, going through this, like Christina was saying, going through this second one, the first time, and we'll tell you about the second transplant, but the first time was, I was grateful to be saved from that physical ailment. I wasn't focused on, God, what are you trying to teach me in the trial? And the second time, and Christina really helped me with this, we were trying to ask that question, God, what do you want to teach us in the trial, not after the trial? Because you don't always get the transplant, you don't always get the cure or the solution. And we didn't know if we would again the second time. So we didn't want to wait for that perfect physical life before we could experience the joy that God had for us.
So you were just prepared for whatever God would have.
Yeah, I mean, we really, we decided to kind of ask the question, why not me, instead of why me, because we know what we deserve as sinners and we've been saved, so anything else in this world is just a blessing, and you don't always get like Scott said, the restored relationship or the thing that you want, so we were hoping for that and praying for that. But I think sometimes we can get lost in that, just that time and not enjoy it before you know what's going to happen.
So not knowing, obviously you get the news that you need a second transplant. You don't know when or if that's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And the waiting list, is for a deceased donor of kidneys. So they put you on the list, and that means if someone passes away who's chosen to be an organ donor, then if your name comes up, if it's your turn in line, then you may get a match. But what sometimes happens is someone will volunteer to donate a kidney. You can donate while you're living. So that's what happened the first time with my piano teacher. The second time it was also a living donor who was approved in the beginning of 2015. But the crazy thing, John, about this transplant was that it was actually an anonymous living donor.
Wow.
That was approved to donate their kidney to me. It was someone that I had never met, someone that Christina and I had never done anything for, who wanted to save my life. And
How did they find out? I mean, what they knew was you, or they
well,
just...
we didn't know at the time, but we found out that they were listening to the radio, and Christina and I together were doing an interview about organ donation on one of the Christian radio programs nationally. And so we didn't know where this person was from. They could have been from anywhere. But we were doing an interview about organ donation. There's over 100,000 people waiting for organ transplants, but over 90,000 of those are waiting for the kidney. So that's the big one, and that's the one that people can give while they're still living, which is crazy to think that someone would do that in the first place, but then to a non-family member, right? So she heard that interview, and she thought, oh, he seems nice. I hope he gets a transplant. And then she kept hearing this thought in the back of her head, why couldn't it be you? And eventually she obeyed that and went to Vanderbilt. And out of all the people that underwent some amount of testing, Christina was tested, and this person was the best match.
That's there's a parallel with the gospel. You're dying, and you need somebody to give something to help you out. Christ giving his own life for us when we were literally on death's door, so to speak. I'm sure maybe God's probably showing you that parallel, or even spoke that to you in some measure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like I was powerless to save myself physically until my kidney donor stepped in and offered to give me the gift of life with a kidney. We're all powerless to save ourselves from sin, like you said. If you're here today, I want you to know that you are powerless to save yourself from sin, as am I. I'm powerless to save myself from my sin. But we believe that Jesus took the penalty for that sin. He gave us the greater gift of eternal life so that we could be with him in eternity. And what an amazing thing that is to think about. So I think experiencing this in my own life 2 times has really helped me to understand God's gift of grace in a whole new light. We cannot be perfect. We can never live up to God's standard. We're dying, like you said, John. And we're powerless to save ourselves from that. We can't change our trajectory, but Jesus can. And he places his Holy Spirit within us and allows us to change and to live lives that are pleasing to God.
So now you're in a different stage of your life now, having now extra kidneys, and what's God doing now in your life as far as which ministry or life?
Well, okay, one thing, the coolest thing about the transplant is that it not only gave Scott his life back, but it also allowed us to create a new life.
Praise the Lord.
So, which is amazing.
He's 2.5.
Yeah, our son Christian is 2.5, and we weren't able to have kids when he was in kidney failure, so it's just an extra gift that really keeps on giving, and he's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and then since then, and we've had the opportunity to tour in many places around the world, but we've also had many invitations and opportunities that we've not been able to take because of finances, or it doesn't make sense business-wise, that kind of thing. All over the world at the time, 4 out of 5 people were watching American Idol, and in the U.S., and then it would air in Jordan, it would air in the Middle East, in Asian countries, and African countries. And so we know we've barely, scratched the surface of the door that God's opened with that. And we started a nonprofit part of our music ministry recently in order to share the gospel very clearly with those millions of people that have an introduction to me through Idol. And so we're already reaching more children and adults in the U.S. We're embarking on our first ministry international trip this fall.
What's the ministry called?
The ministry is Scott Macintyre Ministries, and we actually came under the covering of, many of you might know organizations like Campus Crusade for Christ or Youth with a Mission. So there's one called Artists in Christian Testimony International, and we came under their sending and their covering, and just like a missionary would do, people send us and allow us, give us finances to go where we cannot otherwise go. And so we're seeing the gospel reach even more people in churches and in Christian schools as well. Many times we're not able to reach as many children as we would like, so we're going to so many more schools now, which we're very excited about.
So a couple things you have products in the back.
Yeah, so we have Scott's book, which he wrote, and that's kind of about the first kidney transplant, his time on American Idol and growing up blind, and then we also actually made a documentary about Scott's journey through the second kidney transplant, and so that has footage from that experience of ours, and then of course a CD with music and a couple other things back there, but feel free to stop by. We'd love to share it with you.
But more importantly, they're full-time in ministry, and so if you can help them out, support, I don't know if there's a way to give to you guys, or prayer support, or financial support, of course.
We would love your prayers, and we brought a graphic, and we can put that up on the screen actually, and leave it up during this next song. I'll share one more.
Sure.
We'll do 2 more songs, but I'll do one in a second here, and we'll put this graphic up on the screen. And because of the nonprofit status and nature of our ministry, everything that's given officially through a means like this, the text to give is tax deductible. So I always like to say, especially since this is a young church here, it's you guys support your church. If you've been coming here, support John and his family and this church family. This is this is so important. But some of you may be able to do something beyond that, and you may want to do something beyond that. And if you'd like to be a part of what God's doing through Christina and I, and this ministry, we would be honored if you would give something today. It's you can just text the number on the screen with any donation amount. Maybe some of you can give 10 or 20. Maybe someone can give 100. Maybe there's someone in here that would like to give much more than that. And we've just seen God opening so many doors through this. So as I sing the last song, we'll leave that up for you.
And I wanted to thank John and Sharon, and wanted to say they are actually ministry partners of ours, so we're so grateful for their support. We have other ministry partners with us here in the room this morning, and some family here, so just wanted to thank you all for coming, and our friends and all that. So appreciate you having us, and it's been a real joy and blessing.
Thank you for being here. Why don't you allow you to sing another song and hear your beautiful voice. And
thanks, John.
When it all seems too much and you're caught in the rush, you feel all alone without a hope or a prayer. Down on the floor, one thing's for sure, there's only one way up from here. When the night is too dark to bear, close your eyes, close your eyes. When you to come up for air, close your eyes, close your eyes. I will come to you, I will comfort you, tell you it's gonna be alright. You'll be safe in my arms tonight, close your eyes. Stopped asking why life keeps passing you by. There's nobody left for you to blame. Oh, when it's you and the fear staring back in the mirror, just turn around and I'll be there. is too dark to bear. Close your eyes, close your eyes. No, 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 when the night is too dark to bear. Close your eyes, close your eyes. When you need to come for it, close your eyes, close your eyes. I will come to you, I will comfort you, tell you it's gonna be alright. You'll be safe in my arms tonight. You'll be safe in my arms tonight. You'll be safe in my arms tonight.
You can sing. Here, I'll help you out there. I'm not going to give you a high five. Here you go. Okay, the first step's coming right there. Second, and floor. You bet. Well, good morning.